Okay, today is Friday, May 27th, 2022. My name is Karen Neurohr. I am a librarian at the Oklahoma State University Library in Stillwater, Oklahoma, and I am in the Oklahoma Oral History Research Program Department. I am here in the George J. Captain Library at the Eastern Shawnee Tribe of Oklahoma headquarters. And I'm here today to interview Jennifer Lankford, who is a librarian here, and also Sherry Cook, who works in the print shop here. And this is for the Pandemic Oral History Project. So thank you both for being willing to participate in the interview with us today for this project.
Sure.
Okay, so I'd like to start first by having you each tell me a little bit about the work that you do. So Jennifer, would you like to go first?
Okay. So I've been here, it'll be 5 years in November. I have a teaching degree, taught for 14 years, so now I'm working for the tribe. And I do a lot up here in the library. We obviously run on grants, so we do have, always have an IMLS grant active. We have the not the basic, what do you call that? You have your basic grant, and then you have enhancement grant. So this will be our second enhancement grant, I think, that we've worked on. And I've gotten to go up to the Learning Center for the tribe and teach STEM lessons. So, we order and I make the lessons here, and then I would take them up there. I also have patrons that come in, and I've helped with many things in here. A veteran came in and needed help with his paperwork for, what do you call that?
Disability.
Like disability. And I can't think of what else it was called, but I've helped with online divorces, with, multiple things, everything, medical, insurance, just they come in, and if I can't figure it out, I go get Sherry or Laura, but they know there's a safe spot where they can come in and get help, and it's not public knowledge that they were in here needing help. I know we've had exhibits in here, so schools, I reach out to the schools, especially Seneca, even though they're in Missouri. They're right here on the border with us, and it's easy for them to get here for a field trip. Mm-hmm. So, we work with the schools when we have exhibits for them to come in and view and see what's going on. The first exhibit I was part of was the Veterans exhibit, and we actually had a Jeep and a tent set up in here, and mannequins, and the Smithsonian Library. We had what do we call that? The exhibit that was on loan. It was a traveling exhibit.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
It was the Native Americans that were in all the wars. I can't remember the name of what it was called.
What's the name of that?
I know, I don't either. So, but we had those posters all set up through here. We had our display, so it was a pretty big deal. Mm-hmm. And the schools came in and were able to, we do kind of presentations for them. And so that was not IMLS though. That was a different, maybe one of the historic, Oklahoma historic. Mm-hmm. And then we have the exhibit here now that we're working on is the Faces to the 1938 roll, getting pictures for all those faces. So we're trying to finish up that exhibit before powwow comes, so that when tribal members visit, they can come in and see their families up there. So those are some things that we work on. And then I'm always researching Native American books and trying to get whatever's out there in here, so we have it not just digital, but I like to have the book, so if something ever happens to internet. I've watched too much, too many zombie shows. I'm like, we need to have books in here, so if we lose the internet, we've got them on hand. But I know I try to get more people in here. A lot of people don't know the library's here to use, and they use it as a resource. Get kids in here if they need help with reports or homework. Like, come use me, come in here. So. And then I'm always, on call for the print shop. Like, they need me to go back there and do something, I'm there. If I need to make deliveries, I don't have as much time to sit back there and learn how to do Photoshop and some of the programs they use. But whatever they need my help with, I'm part of the team. We're all a team, and I know, like, they'll come up here and help me if I need any help. Like, if I have to interview and I don't want to sit here by myself, I can get somebody up here to do it with me. But that's about that.
So do your book collections primarily serve Eastern Shawnee?
No, we are
tribal
open
members?
to the public,
You are.
to anybody. And now we do keep data on, if they come in and get a library card, are you Native American? If they're not, that's fine. Are you Eastern Shawnee? Are you Cherokee, Modoc? So that at the end of the year, we can keep that data. Something interesting, and I'm probably jumping ahead, during the pandemic was I did have a tribal member that reached out wanting a library card. And she actually lives locally. She is deaf. So it was the first time I've ever had any dealings with somebody over the phone that couldn't hear you, and you had like a mediator, a middle person that was talking to you. And however that works, I still don't understand. But I was able to get her a library card, communicate with her, and teach her how to use our database so that she could check out books to her child. She was homeschooling at home and get books. And I know that she still uses it because I can see the data on our who uses our online checkout. So, and I mean, we do have people that can email us now and request a card, and I'll get them signed up and just email them their card, and then they have any questions and they can call me. But anybody can get a library card here.
Is this part of is it called the Oklahoma Virtual Library Program?
Yes, yes.
Okay.
And I mean, that you can get so many books. I mean, you know that. You guys are part of that too, probably, right? I don't know.
Well, it's something
our
to look
public
into.
library is.
Our public library, yes.
Well, we do have a lot of digital books. I'm not sure if it's through that same program or not.
I mean, we have very few on our George J. Captain website. Now we have the link, and we've tried to make it more user friendly, where it's right there. Like you get into George J. Captain Library, there is the link to get onto OK Virtual, and you click on it. And now, if you have any finds in the library, I figured this out because I had some overdue books or movies that I cannot check. I cannot check out online if I have a fine or something overdue, which is kind of neat. But so, anyways, I think that's all I have right now.
Okay, Sherry, tell me a little bit about the work that you do.
Well, I'm assigned to the print shop. Really, the print shop and library is kind of one unit. So like Jennifer said, the three of us, Laura being our immediate supervisor, she's the director, and then Jennifer and myself. I was originally hired just a week before Jennifer, 5 years ago, on a grant where I was doing research for the veterans who are Eastern Shawnee. So, and we're still discovering more, but, and that's what prompted that exhibit that she was talking about. And so I do a little bit of everything. We just moved from grant to grant. So that was just the first grant that I came in on, but I'm a photographer. So I do the photography, I do the graphic design, we do the printing. We make a joke that we're going to put on a different hat today. You know, we do the exhibiting. The print shop is mainly a resource for the tribe. We have hands on every project that every department does. We're either doing their designing or their printing or setting up their exhibit in one capacity or another. So we print on paper, booklets, of course. We also have done interviews, done editing for videos, digital. I do digital restorations on their photographs. We do T-shirts. We do, I mean, just it goes on and on and on and on and on. So, and then we just go from year to year from whatever new IMLS enhancement grant or the Historical Society that we're working with onto that next exhibiting.
Do you all write the grants, or do you have someone else who works on that?
Laura predominantly writes it, and we all have a hand in it. It's pretty much a group effort. And then it goes to the grant writer, and we have an actual grant writer on staff. And then he does the budget and edits it and, you know, manipulates it how he wants. But we come up with the original idea and then just kind of all hash it out. So it's really, everything is just really a team effort here between the three of us.
So are you always on the lookout then for funding opportunities and grants?
Yes, I was texting Laura last night an idea from something that I saw. Oh, great idea. I think we're working. I think 5 grants right now is what we
Oh, wow.
we've always got something.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
And then we are also, for the print shop, we're also open to the public. We also print for the public. So it's not just the tribe.
Mm-hmm.
So we do a lot of the window graphics in town and their posters and their menus and just everything.
When you say in town, are you talking about Seneca
Seneca and Wyandotte.
and Wyandotte? Okay.
Yeah, we print for the banks and the local businesses as
Okay.
well.
So does that generate some income then?
Yes,
You
for
don't
the
do
print
that
shop.
for free.
We don't do it for free.
Right. Right. Yeah. Okay, good. So that's just another way that the tribe is diversified
Yes.
as far as business enterprises go, it
Yes.
sounds like.
Yes.
Okay. Okay, so let's start talking about COVID-19 a little bit. So, Jennifer, when you first started hearing about COVID-19, what were your thoughts?
Well, I don't like to say this, but I was a little scared because everybody was shutting everything down, so you didn't know what to expect, what was going on, other than everybody around you is getting sick, and it wasn't, when it first came out, it didn't hit this area like it did a lot of the bigger cities. We didn't get really, I would say, hit with COVID until the end, towards middle end. I mean, people were getting it and passing, but I mean, at first, so we got the opportunity, like for 10 days, to stay home and get, is it called bereavement pay? Or no,
I think they called it comfort leave.
Comfort leave. It was comfort leave. Bereavement's whenever somebody dies. It was comfort leave, and not knowing. And I have a daughter in school. She was staying home because they closed the schools down. So I'm like, I'm staying home. But so I stayed home during those 10 days, and then I came back. I was one of them that they allowed to come back, because we were closed. We closed down here, but we still had the Shooting Star. It's our newsletter that we mail out every month, that we have to do, and we still had responsibilities that could be done with the doors shut, even though patrons weren't coming in. And actually, I was sent over and helped our grant writer for a while to write the grants for COVID-19, the CDC grant, what policies and procedures and we're going to go through. And so I got to go work with grants and come back and forth. So I was kind of in between. And I mean, I don't know really how to say how I felt, because it was questionable, like what's real,
Mm-hmm. Would this time frame have been March, when things just really started shutting down around the state?
It was, remember the
March
2
of
weeks
2020.
to stop the spread? That's when it really, that's when we did the comfort shutdown.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, March through into May, a little bit into May of 2020 was when it was really, things were closing and people weren't sure about things.
It all starts blending together.
It does. It's
Yeah.
been 2 years, which is
That's
hard to
crazy.
believe. Yeah, yeah. Were you having to wear a mask when you were back working?
Yes. So if I went back there, because we had like some departments where somebody got COVID, somebody tested positive. Well, the other 3 people that work in the same office, they didn't wear a mask. They were exposed. That department got shut down for 2 weeks, or even a month. And so, like, if I went back there, I had to wear a mask. I couldn't walk across to the chief's building. Everywhere we went, we had to wear a mask.
So like this was considered her office.
So I didn't have to wear
The other buildings have separate offices. So each office, they didn't have to wear a mask within their office. So this was considered her office. And then the print shop, Laura and our desks are right next to each other. So we didn't have to when it was just the 2 of us. But then that room was considered our office. And then if you had to go into another building or something, or anybody who came in, our doors were locked. So to let them in, they had to wear a mask, and then we would also wear a mask. So, but if it was just like Laura and I, we didn't, between the 2 of us. But
Did your print services slow down during the pandemic?
Yes, we did stay open. And during that comfort leave, I think I might have been off a day or two something. Laura and I both came in because, like Jennifer said, we had the newsletter. We assembled the newsletter. Content-wise, we actually do the designing of it, and the content of it is submitted to us, but then we edit all of that, and then we also do the printing, and then we do the mailing of it. And it goes to all of the tribal citizens, every tribal citizen, Eastern Shawnee, of course, nationwide. So everybody who's on the outskirts, that's their information for what's going on in the tribe. So it's really important that that goes out, and that goes out on time, especially during a pandemic, right? So we stayed open for that. We did do, we also do vinyl work. So we made a lot of vinyl signs and graphics for the other departments for the COVID information that they needed to put out. So we stayed open for that. We have elders up in the housing. How many?
I think there was 12 different duplexes.
12 units up there. And of course, so they all had to isolate, right? So Chief had come over and asked us to do some yard signs that they switched out every once in a while. Just, we're thinking of you and you're not alone, and just cute different things. And we did drive-bys up there and stuff where we stayed in the car and just different things to keep them not so isolated. But so yeah, we were closed to the public, closed to the other departments, and if anybody needed anything, of course, they would email us, which is normal anyway. And then we would have it ready for them to pick up and just pass it through the door with masks on. And originally, anything that came in, nobody knew, right? So our protocol was to let something sit for like 24 hours or something and let it air out. And of course, we disinfected everything like crazy constantly and things like that.
Were you doing that too with books, library books and things, Jennifer?
Yes. Well, at first they weren't checking out, but whenever we offered the curbside pickup. Not a lot of people have used it. A lot of several elders up there at Elder Housing that were regulars in here, I had one that moved here from Oregon. And so I knew how he didn't have Netflix or anything, so he was checking out movies. So I literally just started on one side of the movie shelf and went through and got on the computer to see what he'd already watched, and went through and just started getting things that I knew that he could possibly like. And then I would drop them off, and either he would call me and I'd go pick them up, or he would just drop them off in the thing and I'd let them set and spray. But so it was, and I know that she talked about the elders up there. There were several of them that were, depression during COVID was big, and a lot of them went to the AOA for their lunches. So
and the AOA is the
where the elders go eat lunch.
Agency
on Aging.
Agency on Aging. Okay.
AOA, yeah. I didn't say AOL, did I?
No.
AOA, yeah. But they went there. They got before COVID hit, they would socialize. They'd eat. There were books there. There was a gift shop there. Then the wellness center's right next to it. So they'd go walk their laps. Well, all that came to a halt. It was nothing in it, and they didn't get to see their grandkids. Grandkids couldn't come visit because they didn't want to take a chance of infecting their grandparents. So they were really getting depressed. And I know at one point we ended up making like care bags, and we had some things that we had bought for to make things like that. And we just went through and made some things and got some things together and made all of the elders a gift bag,
like a care package.
Yes, care package, and went around and with our mask on, we delivered those. And that was probably a couple of months in, knowing some of them were suffering depression, but they were so happy. Like, there's the outside world. The only time they got to see anybody was whenever the AOA did deliver meals. And that was it, because unless they had to go get their medicine or go to the doctor, they were staying clear of everybody. So,
and every once in a while we would make something just to take up to each one of them.
Yeah.
What kinds of things were in the care packages, or were you taking
One
up?
time it was fruit and vegetables and things, and we had little bags that we made for their car. So it had a mask, it had hand sanitizer, it had a spray sanitizer, just any little thing, even if it wasn't a large thing, just to say, hey, we know you're still here. And they would change the signs out and stuff. And we would talk to them through the door. You know, we would leave it on their chair that's outside their door. Mm-hmm. We didn't actually have immediate contact with them and stuff. But
we have a thrift store in town, and they were giving out food, a lot of fresh vegetables. Because I think like Walmart and different places had or like overstocked, and they were giving this stuff to churches and thrift stores. So we told them what we were doing, and they gave us some of those fresh produce, and we were able to put together little baskets.
Initially, when it first started, remember, we needed masks, and there were no masks.
Yes.
So I sew, and Laura sews. So we brought our sewing machines in, and we made hundreds of masks. And Chief allowed us to do that on company time, and we made them. And that was one of the first things that we distributed to the elders, was all for free, masks. And of course, there was no elastic, ran out right away. Fabric,
I forgot about that.
The stores were closed. So I have a lot of fabric. Laura had a lot of fabric. And then we went to the local thrift shop, and just by the grace of God, they had a booth with bolts of fabric that was new. It wasn't old or anything. So we set up shop. We had the whole print shop. And Jennifer's back there, cutting elastic. She wasn't the seamstress.
Yeah, no.
We tried.
They
but
tried.
that didn't work.
Oh, you only have 2 machines. I'm good.
But yeah, so that was one of the first things that we did. And then we continued to make masks, and I still have a box in the car if anybody ever needs any. But that was one of the first things that we did. And we made it in cute travel fabric and, just different things. So
I'm sure that was appreciated.
Yeah,
Yes.
they were. They enjoyed that.
Yes.
Okay, so we've talked a little bit about how the procedures changed over time as far as keeping the doors locked and people were staying in their own office areas. Did you ever have to do any staggered scheduling or anything like that, or were you able to stay distant enough because of the space of where you each are?
When you say like staggered scheduling,
Like somebody would come in and work in the morning, and then somebody would come in and work in the afternoon or anything.
We didn't
like
really
that.
have to do
Did
that
you
here
know
since
about-
we're so separated.
Okay.
And Laura takes care of her elderly father. I take care of my elderly mother. And so we just kind of had a pact. I mean, if one of us got it, the other one was going to get it. We work so closely together, right? So we just kind of had a pact that we go out in public, we wear a mask, and looking out for each other and looking out for each other's parents. Now, Jennifer has kids in school. So that's a whole different gamut right there. So she, in the beginning, predominantly stayed up here. And like she said, if she comes back there, she would wear a mask. And we would do the same thing. We were predominantly back there. So we were just more aware of all of that and tried to be as safe as we could.
Jennifer, what was that like for you with having kids in school?
well, I mean, I know that Sherry and Laura, we wouldn't get in arguments. We might have some heated discussions because, like, I was one of those people that didn't necessarily think the masks were keeping you from getting COVID. So Harley, my daughter's hearing impaired anyways, so she doesn't have an ear. So her having to wear a mask was almost impossible. There's only certain masks that she could wear, and that was just because it would accidentally happen to latch onto her piece that's in her hearing bone that sticks out. But she could not wrap a mask around her. She'd have to wear one of those base ones. But getting Harley, my daughter, to do homeschool work was kind of impossible. One, I'm not at home, and two, she just wouldn't sit at home, and it was vacation for her. I hated that because a lot of these parents that can homeschool their kids, somebody's at home a lot of the time. Well, not it wasn't the case. So she's already been kind of behind with school because of her hearing impairment. So COVID affected what progress we had made in getting her where she needed to be grade level wise to kind of sliding back again. So being at home, it was nice whenever I was there with her, but then whenever she was expected to do homeschooling work, it was kind of a struggle. because there was an adult there all the time.
Were the schools closed for very long here?
Oh, yeah, they were for.
Because wasn't it spring break? Like it
Yes.
happened during spring break,
It
and so
was-
they didn't go back for the rest of the year. It was over.
Yeah, because that was my son's senior year,
Yes.
2020, because he didn't get a prom. So yeah, with the senior, I forgot Grant was still in high school. He didn't get to experience his last year wrestling. Luckily, he's a wrestler. He got to go to state. It was right after state. Everything was stopped. And it seems like the schools were more worried about not getting to finish their sports rather than keeping all the kids safe. Well, this is my son's senior year. He's playing basketball. We're going to finish. That's the kind of attitude they had. But kids were, there were some kids that were dying of COVID, and it was starting to spread, in schools, and they were more concerned about their kid finishing their season in basketball or track, because, they didn't get to do track that year. Versus let's make sure our kids are safe. Yeah, it stinks they didn't get to have senior night, but
There was a lot of denial in the community that it was even real in the beginning. It was just made up hoax, and we had personal friends and family who were dying. And yeah, many weren't, forget taking it serious, they weren't even taking it, they didn't think it was real, let alone the severity of it. So it was just a really confusing time, I think, for everybody in the nation, in the world, But,
Do you remember the first time that you got COVID tested, if you did? Do you remember what that was like?
it was horrible because
horrible.
They stuck that thing in my brain. But then it was funny because after those initial tests, that they thought they had to stick it all the way up to the top of your head.
Yeah, we all took those.
Then the rest of those, they weren't that bad. But those first few,
When they had to do the cavity.
yes, it was horrible.
And we initially get the blood. We had a blood test initially. They gave it to all the employees to see if we had the antibody for
Yes,
it.
it was where they poked your finger. Yes.
Yeah, we did that first. And then I don't think anybody had had any of the antibodies. So then we all stayed, and it's hard to remember the exact sequence, but we all did. We didn't have to. When they first started the immunization, remember? So we were fortunate to get in on that first round, and they sent a sign-up sheet around, or maybe it's just on the email. And so I signed up thinking, well, yeah, I'll think about it, but I'll put my name on here because they're going to do the elders first. They're going to do, all these other people. Well, they didn't have very many people sign up. And so that day, it's like, well, you're getting an immunization this afternoon. It's like, wait a minute, we're still researching this,
Right.
So there was a
didn't
lot of confusion.
And that's my grandmother and I probably got into it several times because did not get the immunization. That's just, we have a difference of opinions on the whole COVID and being immune.
And it was not mandatory.
And it was not mandatory. So, I didn't get it. And she's like, Jennifer, I don't not understand why. The data's there. She's like, if it wasn't for scientists, I got through cancer. And I'm like, I understand that. I said, I don't agree with it right now. And so anyways, she finally let up a little bit, but.
So those who chose to, we were given it through the tribe, which was nice. We didn't have to, and we were in the very first rounds of it.
Yes.
Before any of them in the community. So we were really fortunate working for a tribe that we were able to do, I felt. And so.
And we didn't have a real big outbreak here for a while.
It was in pockets. It was in churches. It was in
nursing homes.
And so people who were hit, I know one family that was hit with 8 of them. People that were hit, they were hit hard, but it wasn't widespread as far as just generally in the community, in the beginning.
So, and so I did get it at the end of last year, and I was down for a month.
End of November, beginning of December.
Yeah, it was when I got it, and then it was almost right like a week before Christmas because then my daughter showed symptoms, but she never tested positive, never, and she was tested several times, again, she was in sports. As long as she was negative and she wasn't running a fever, she could go to school. I mean, that was their school's policy. And Grant, my son that was home, he tested positive, and he was really bad. I think that, like both of us are overweight. I think the weight and health part of it was probably why we had trouble getting over it.
You think it would have mattered had you been vaccinated? Did that occur to you?
No, I don't. Well, I mean, I did. Well, but then, my grandmother she ended up in the hospital. She was vaccinated. She was deathly ill from COVID. And she says, well, I wouldn't have walked away if it wasn't for the vaccine. Mm-hmm. So, I don't know. I mean, I did qualify for going to the hospital to get, is it the antibodies or an infusion? And I got sicker before it started working. And they said that's common, but I don't know if it would have mattered if I would have gotten the vaccine. Mm-hmm. I don't know. Mm-hmm. You might tell me, yes, it would have mattered, Jennifer. You would have gotten over it quicker, but I live in tribal housing, and we are having some home issues at home, not personally, with the house, with mold and stuff. And I think that the mold in the house affected us getting better, having the breathing part, because we're immune to it. So we don't, but somebody else will come in the house like, oh my gosh, what's that smell? And so, I think that the house situation had something to do with us getting over it.
And you're also a previous smoker.
Yeah, and I did.
Which she's quit.
Yes, I quit.
That's good.
Like
good
for
you.
2 years.
She has.
And I mean, I would get bronchitis and pneumonia. Mm-hmm. Got pneumonia the first time I started here, but bronchitis all the time. I haven't had it. Mm-hmm. And so, now if I would have been smoking, I probably would have died from COVID.
So
honestly,
that probably played a part in it.
So, anyways.
What information sources were you relying on with COVID? Jennifer, let's start with you. What were you following or looking at for information that you trusted?
Well, I'm a Facebook follower, so I mean, we don't have regular local dish network or anything on TV, so I'd always go to Facebook News and see what was going on in Facebook. I'm not really a Twitter person. Facebook, and then coming to work, and they're more of the news people, so they would relay what was going on in the news. So social media and coming to work every day to find out what was going on is pretty much how I stayed up to date. Yep, informed.
Sherry, what about you?
Well, I'm a Twitter, but my Twitter feed is congressmen, senators, news outlets. I don't use it as a social platform like Facebook. So I would get a lot of tips on there, but mostly the CDC website, the main news stations, MSNBC, CNN, and then the local stations to see what was going locally. And Chief was really good, and our administration was good about sending out CDC updates, and things evolved and changed, yes. And everybody was confused, and I think that spurred a lot of the conspiracy theories, because as they learned the ideas and tips and protocols, they did change, because you're learning more. So I think that really spurred on the area, nationwide, obviously, conspiracy theories and differences of opinions were just enhanced that, through that. But I just tried to stay informed through the main, the CDC and the main news outlets, none of the far left or the far right. I just tried to, and then make my own decision, But I did take the extra protocols. I figured if I'm wrong, fine, But I'd rather err on the side of the caution, since I do take care of my mom, and Laura did take care of her father. So that was our main things in our mind of why we were, doing what we're doing. I've never smoked. I'm healthy. I'm in a normal, weight range. I'm almost 60, so I'm not that young, so that was against me. But other than that, I felt like if I did get it, I am double vaxxed and boosted, that I would be fine. But who would I be exposing was my concern.
Okay. Do you have anything to add to that from your perspective?
No.
Okay. Okay. So from a work perspective, what were your top challenges? Jennifer, for you.
Well, it's because we run on grants, is getting our grants finished. We actually had to write for an extension on one of our IMLS grants. Was it IMLS?
Mm-hmm.
And because we couldn't, was it the Gin bus?
No, it was this one.
Okay, so this grant, and it was Cultural Awakening, is where we were interviewing elders and getting stories. And we had elders that were getting sick, and it's like, we got to get this one. Well, when we're still in the middle of the pandemic, and since we're closed, we were able to square off a corner of the library, make it a interview station, and contact some of these elders and say, hey, can you come over? We're trying to finish up this grant.
That was after the extension.
Yeah, after the extension. Well, we got the extension. Then we were able to get them in here one at a time. We had our mask on. And then whenever we were so many feet apart, whatever CDC recommended, we were able to take the mask off to interview and ask questions. And some of them, they really looked forward to that because it got them out of the house. They were in a safe spot. They weren't going to be necessarily exposed because we were keeping distance. And so finishing up grants and that helped keep us employed and helped keep our jobs there was kind of stressful because, if it would have continued, one of us may have, or two of us may not have had a job.
Yeah, it would have probably been Jennifer and I's job on the line.
Mm-hmm.
So getting the extension on that helped. And then, so that was another project that we were able to work on with things closed was them editing and making the video.
And we did all that in-house, so.
Mm-hmm. Do you feel like, you talked about how they looked forward to coming over and interviewing, do you feel like the information that was exchanged was different? Was it enhanced or anything because of their attitude toward participating and getting out?
Well, I mean, it was, they did, all of them that came in after COVID hit was, because I think we did have some interviewed before, but after they all touched on COVID and how it affected them, and being depressed and lonely because they couldn't, they learned. It's kind of funny because these elders that don't have, they're just figuring out Facebook, and some of them have accounts, but they're learning how to FaceTime, Zoom, things that they never thought they'd ever have to learn how to use. Mm-hmm. But that was the only way. Their kids are explaining to them over the phone how to do this so that they can see their grandkids face to face, even though they weren't there to hug them and hold them. They were able to see them, and I mean, there were tears shed. There was, I mean, that's really hard on our tribal elders, is, not being able to touch the things that they loved, which was their grandkids and kids. So I think that it had an effect. I think that some of them, it was hard for them to talk about, but in the same sense, it was, I mean, they talked about it. Mm-hmm. I know that I didn't go, but Laura and Sherry, they traveled. I went to Tulsa area, and they set up, we had to contact the librarian there. Even though they were closed at Tulsa, they opened it up to us where we were able to get tribal elders that were up in that area to meet us up there and interview and get part of this project, because we did want to get as many in, especially since COVID hit, so they could share their story of who they were, where they came from, and why Eastern Shawnee tribe is important to them.
And that was all later after the travel ban was listed. We had
Yes.
a travel ban within the tribe for the employees. And so that was like into that next year.
Yes,
wasn't
because it was where we could travel less than 100. It was
50 miles.
Yeah, 50
or
miles. So
something.
they were able to travel to Tulsa, stay there a couple of days, and get some of those people that were around that area to meet them. But yeah, that was
That initial year, yeah, we were all locked down, you know, so we couldn't, of course you can't interview people then. So that was all after we received the extension, and then that following year, we were able to do that finally.
Oh, and then there was a time there was a tribal elder that was sick, and so we couldn't get to that tribal elder. They couldn't get here, so there was a phone interview.
We just put your microphone right up to the phone.
Yeah.
And then for the video, we just showed photos of him over his voice. So a way around that. But that was the first time in the history. Laura, I don't know how long she's been working on grants, but she's worked here for
over 25 years.
Over 25 years. And that's the first time the library or print shop, it's all one thing for the grants, but it's the first time that she's ever had to request an extension.
Oh.
So that is saying something.
That is. Which library in Tulsa were you able to work with for this?
Was it the Tulsa Public Library?
I don't remember the name of it.
Was it the one that has the American Indian Resource Center where Teresa Runnels is, or was it a different one?
I just know there was construction going on to get
that
to
would be
it.
a Laura question.
Yeah, that was a Laura. I'm
She's
not for sure which
here.
one.
I should
Okay.
know. I just don't remember.
That's okay. We can always add that in later if we want to specify.
And they were so gracious to host us there. They had a separate room, and it was right off of a main road. So I want to say that it was by Broken Arrow, but that's probably not even right. I'm not sure.
Okay. What about any grant funding that became available because of COVID? Any that helped with the PPE? I know from speaking with the chief, she talked about grant funding that came that helped the tribe in that way. But was there separate funding that came to the library, to this part of the tribe?
I was able to get vinyl for cutting, printing basically, but to make signage and things like that. So we were able to get materials for things that we needed to make. I'm not sure what else.
Well, I know that we got the dividers for the computers so that when we opened.
Yeah, the plexiglass.
And, we got the plexiglass around the front desk. And we could take that off now, but I've just become accustomed to having it there. I mean, it helps with the spread of germs. We were able to get masks, of course, sanitizer.
That type of thing.
But the plexiglass and those kind of things, and then, the signs that we were able to make for here and then other departments, that was what the funding was that we were awarded for, was used. Now I know that this is one of the grants I was helping write. We were able to redo. I don't know if Chief talked about the Red Barn. They redid the Red Barn. It's out on our other complex on Highway 10, and it's actually now where our greenhouses are at. We grow but we have vegetables, and I know during COVID, Mother's Day, they purchased a bunch of flowers and house plants to put out there, and you could go by and purchase them. So it was used for that, and then they bought a machine where we could make our own sanitizer and our own cleaning, so that that would save money.
And that was a whole grant.
And then of course, then there was the tribal politics. Why do we need that? If we're getting all this stuff donated to us and through the government, through these grants, this money, why do we need to have? Well, it's not always going to be there. That stuff's not, so now we can make our own. Even after COVID pandemic, we can still make the cleaning solution that the Learning Center uses to wipe down all of their tables and floor and toys. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, it was like, what do we need now, and then what will help us in the future? That was kind of the goals that we were trying to look at, not just to go out and buy stuff that we know we need right now. What if another pandemic hits in 2 years? Mm-hmm. Okay, we're prepared. We can make our own cleaner. We don't have to wait on the government or the whoever to ship it. We can make our own. So we're kind of looking ahead there. We also, I don't know if Chief touched on it. We have we're able to start a food pantry, which is not going to be a forever food pantry, where it's still funded right now. Where you drive through, you would get your food. And it wasn't enough for an entire month. It was just enough, several meals, and it wasn't just junk. It was recipes would be in there. Mm-hmm. And Shawnee Hudson, the one that wrote that grant and was in charge of that grant, she was the chief's administrative assistant. She's the one that started that, and she got it rolling, and it was her idea. Okay, let's have meal planning. Here are the recipes. Those recipes are inside the bags of food. So now when I say the Red Barn, it has gotten moved out. That was the original place we wanted it to be set up at. So now you go in, you drive around, drive by, they bring your food out, and you leave. So, I mean, there was a lot of things that were put into action in place so that that could help tribal members. And if something happens again in 2, 5, 10 years, we've kind of got things in place now where I would say we're ready, but something different could happen where we'd have to change things. Mm-hmm. But
do you have anything to add to that, Sherry? Okay. Let's go back to the newsletter. If you don't mind me asking, how many do you send out every month?
Is it 1,700, 1,800?
So when we first started in 2017, it was around 1,300. Mm-hmm. So once the pandemic, it's increased every year since we started, but once the pandemic hit, stimulus money was out there, boom, we're almost at 1,800 that we're mailing out. And I brought one just to kind of show you. Whenever we say we do a newsletter, it's not just a 2-page newsletter. We have events like every department. They put in reports, but like, there's so much information about COVID and the programs that was being offered and the stimulus information, the papers to print off to use that was in here, what was going on with the business committee. The business committee, all their meetings that were normally open or were now closed. So all the minutes were in here, even though you can view it. I mean, there's just so much information in just this little bitty newsletter, mm-hmm. and that tribal members depend on this every month. And locals, they expect it in their mailbox when they go out on the 1st. Like, we have till the 1st to get it out, and sometimes it may not get mailed out to the 1st, but usually it's the day before, and right here you'd get it the next day. Mm-hmm. So if they don't have it in their mailbox when they that certain day every month, I mean, they're calling, where's it at? So they do depend on this, and there's the picture of our small houses, tiny homes that were built for one of our programs. That was funded through ARPA mm-hmm. funds. So, I mean, I think that's important to use that money wisely, and not just for now, for a while. Mm-hmm. So.
Okay, the whole pandemic has been just really stressful in so many ways. So what were some ways that you personally, that helped you cope with the stress of it all? Sherry, you want to start with you?
Well, I meditate and try to read self-help and inspirational books and videos. And like I said earlier, I'm the sole caretaker of my mother. I mean, she lives alone. She's not an invalid or anything, but My family's not originally from here, so she doesn't have a large circle of people here, and she's 80 years old. So I isolated her, and she wanted to. She hasn't been out other than to the doctor's office or a few things, And I think just thinking ahead and trying to make it less stressful for her kept my mind off of how it was affecting me. So I would kind of displace, that anxiety. I have a good spiritual life, I think. And so I would just go there and pray a lot and just think that I have to do what I have to do, and whatever's going to happen is going to happen, but I'm going to do, take the necessary precautions or what I feel comfortable with, And then at least I know, and Laura and I had talked about this, and this would get really emotional too, but God forbid our parents get it, because people were getting it and they're dying. I have several family members who have passed away from it personally. And I would just think, if my mom were to get it, she has COPD. She smoked her whole life. She doesn't now, but she had for years. If she gets it, I'm the one that's going to be giving it to her because she's isolated. My husband and our sons and their wives, they would go to her yard and do the signs and talk through the window and all of that. And my mom is on social media, so thankfully she knew how to do, some of that. So she wasn't completely cut off. But if she were to get it, I'm the one that would give it to her, and I doubt that she would survive from it, even though she is vaccinated. So I just felt like if she did, if I had done everything that I thought was necessary to keep her safe, then I would be okay with it. And same with Laura and her father. But if I was having risky behaviors and something would happen, how would you live with yourself? So, yeah.
Okay. Right. What about you, Jennifer? What were some ways that helped you cope with the stress of all of this?
Well, my family, when I say family, my sisters and my mom, we're all pretty tight-knit. So just being stuck at home it was never that way. I was able to go to my sister. She just lives, we're all right here together. So we had each other. So I got to see my niece and nephew all the time, take my kids over there, back and forth. When COVID hit, I live in tribal housing, so I put a garden out there. And when I say a garden, the garden was probably the size of half of this room.
It was a garden.
It was, it was a phenomenal garden. It was so good. Well, I haven't been able to get a tractor back out there, so I haven't had one since. But the garden therapy and being out there and working in the garden and the yard, because I'd much rather be outside working than inside cleaning house. It helped.
And that was during a time where you were able to stay home. You were
that was
home for like a month, weren't you?
I think that was whenever the comfort pay hit, and then
something else. There was a reason.
Yeah, so I was able to stay there at home and do that stuff, and I enjoy it. Like, I've worked every day since I got my teaching degree, going to college. Like, I've never been able to be a stay-at-home mom. Not that I would be able to do it full time, like the month was enough, but it was nice to be at home and be that stay-at-home mom for a little bit. But then we also had a counselor that we'd hired for the tribe, and he's in my phone, so if I need him, but having counseling helped. The issues weren't because of COVID, but it was nice to have somebody to talk to. And I think everybody needs somebody to talk to.
Yes.
And so that the counseling program that we have for the tribe really helped me too. So,
as far as the stress of the pandemic, I'm hearing I'm almost entirely deaf. I have no hearing in my left ear, and I have maybe 35-40% in my right ear. And so I read lips. So I've been reading your lips, and I read Jennifer's lips. And so during the pandemic, everybody masked up, and they put up the plexiglass barriers. So not only, you would be surprised how much even if it's open at top, that plexiglass barrier will inhibit the sound. So then what little bit I am hearing, I don't hear it. You just hear noise, right? And then you can't read their lips. So that was for me personally, that was very, 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 very stressful. So.
Yes, because she couldn't, like, we would have to, like, take several steps back and put the mask down and repeat, because she does read lips. And I know for Harley it was hard, because, you know, I didn't have the full body mask or the full face mask that you could wear where you just put it. So having to go into someplace and being required to wear a mask and not being able to wear it because I don't like saying she's handicapped but she is, because she can't hear, but, you know, and trying to figure out how to get a mask on to stay on. And it was kind of stressful for her. So
that's when we started doing a lot of the online ordering, you know, and the grocery pickup. Yes. So I did that, and then I would bring all the groceries in, like I would do them for my mother, bring them into the garage. You know, we would take it all out. You would wipe it all down in the beginning, you know, everybody was, it was like in hysteria mode, but,
yes.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Toilet paper was rough too. The toilet paper pandemic.
Shortages.
The shortage of toilet paper.
Shortages.
And, you know, in the very beginning, somebody took one of our, you know, we get the cheese wheel toilet papers for the shop. We were missing it.
So like, we don't know where it went. Like,
so it was like a real struggle around here.
Yes. I'm not even going to lie. We ran out of toilet paper and couldn't find any. And we had purchased a bunch of paper towels. Well, that's not good for your septic, but we got a Sawzall and made our own toilet paper rolls out of paper towels. Sawzall took a roll. There's 3 rolls of toilet paper, because if you put a roll of toilet paper or paper towels in the bathroom, kids will use 3 or 4 sheets, and then you're not. So we had to.
And of course, nobody expected it to go that long.
I know.
You know, right. So you're doing these extra crazy steps. Well, not extra, it's just things that we saw that, you know, you should do. I never expected it to go that long, of course.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
How do you feel now that we are 2 years in and the things have changed?
Well, I just got back from a cruise. This is Tuesday was my first day back, so I was on an 8-day cruise. I used to cruise every year, once or twice a year. Mm-hmm. So, of course, I haven't cruised for 3 years. So that, for me, was stressful, too. That's what I call it, your bucket. Everybody has a bucket. And, you know, you need to refill that bucket. And then throughout the year, people are dipping out of that bucket as you're doing your support services or whatever. So my bucket was getting a little empty. 3 years with no cruise. So I was really curious about how the cruise would work, and then how safe I would be, of course, coming back to take care of my mom again, and, you know, being with the girls and exposing them. Well, on Carnival anyway, still to this day, you have to be double vaxxed. You don't have to be boosted, but you have to be double vaxxed, and you have to test negative within like 48 hours or 72 hours of your cruise. Now, of course, you're going to go on there, and there's still going to be people on there who have COVID, because you're not going to test positive right away if you have it. So you're still at a risk for that. But anytime, like during the boarding process, or anytime you're indoors in large gatherings, it's recommended but not required that you mask up. And many, many, many people did. And then my friend Stephanie, who I cruise with, we just adjusted it a little bit and didn't do a lot of the events where you're in close quarters with a lot of people. She also has an elderly father and mother that of course, we're at that age, you know. Mm-hmm. But it felt very safe, actually. And we cruised out of California. Everybody was wearing masks in Long Beach. The ports that we went to Port Lavarte and Mazatlan and Cabo San Lucas. In Cabo, there weren't very many masks. And in the other 2 islands, or Mexico, but the other 2 ports, everybody was wearing a mask. Mm-hmm. So that was, for me, interesting to see the difference. Mm-hmm. And Cabo San Lucas, of course, is more financially stable, I think. It's more of a higher end tourist location than the other two. But coming back, of course, we have the at-home COVID test now that you could get. So I just tested right away when I got home. But there were several people on our Facebook that did test positive from that trip, you know.
Oh, really?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So.
And that's funny. My mom was on a cruise when the pandemic hit, and my dad has watched way too much TV because he was in a frantic state because he legit thought she wasn't going to come home. Because
that was the very beginning.
Very beginning. She's on the boat, and they didn't know if they were going to let them back into the United States. And then when she is coming in, it was so foggy out. So like my dad legit thought my mom was not going to be coming home from this trip because everybody was kind of freaking out right then. And she made it home and then had to deal with him later. But I don't think she'll go on a cruise again. But.
What are some positive things that have come out of COVID, work-wise and personally?
I think people are more, some people, myself, are more self-cautious about being close to people. Like, don't breathe on me. Keep your distance, even if we're not wearing masks. And before, it was just, there are germs, but I don't know. I'm more, even though I'm not a mask wearer, like some of my friends are. And some of my friends are.
For friends?
But, I still I'm right here, stay right there.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have to be right next to me to talk to me. So, like, things like that I wasn't like that before, I am now.
Mm-hmm.
I hold my breath if somebody gets too close, and I didn't used to do that. So,
so the positive aspect to that is
the positive would be that helps keeps germs from spreading, and I guess because I'm like that, I don't have to be as friendly. No, I'm just kidding. No, but the positive would be you're more. Not that I'm cleaner, I wouldn't say, but more self-cautious about how I spread germs that I might be carrying, or especially since I got COVID. And then my mom got it after, and I do think that we're the ones that gave it to her because being over at my sister's, and then the kids being around my mom being over there, and then it was right before Christmas, so everybody, and then mom gets it. She's 64, but my sisters and I, we would make it without her, but we don't know how we would function without our mother. She's the glue that keeps everybody together. So protecting her and when she got it, and then, I don't know. It just I'm more self-cautious around people and about spreading germs. And the kid, I don't know. It's not that we weren't clean before or washed our hands. It's just you're more aware of it now.
Mm-hmm. What about with work? Have there been some changes made with work? You talked about the plexiglass, but is there anything you can think of that comes to mind that?
Well, we didn't have our all staff meetings every quarter, so it was kind of nice.
For 2 years.
That was kind of nice, but
it's recording.
I know. Shh. No, we didn't get to have our meetings. Chief still came around, but I don't. Oh, it was hard, getting over to other departments that needed stuff, or we'd have to make deliveries. We'd have to wait on them to come to the door and have to make sure they were over there. That was kind of a pain. Certain departments opening up, some not having to open up, and then. So I think that caused a little bit of tension among departments because why aren't they open? They can get a plexiglass just like they do at the gas station. If they're going to the grocery store, why can't they be open? They kind of, I think this is just as a tribal member now that they abuse that a little bit. When tribal members needed that contact with people, they didn't have to actually be in contact for them to come in and use their department. I think it got abused a little bit of being shut down when some departments weren't shut down. And so then that caused a little bit of tension. Mm-hmm. So does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. Okay. A lot of our events, all the events, were changed the format. In the beginning, they were simply canceled. Again, we didn't know how long this was going to last, right? Mm-hmm. So then when it's obvious that it's going to continue and we're going to have to do something, for example, the children's Christmas party turned into, instead of an indoor all-inclusive event, it turned into a drive-through. So we set up over across the way, the casino there was closed down, of course, but there's a drive-through there where it was like the drop-off entry point. So we decorated that with gnomes out of bushes, and we just tried to make it as extravagant as possible, just for the children, and then they would just drive through and get their, each department had a table set up that would give out goodies or, whatever it was. So then they could drive through and get that. The children's powwow got turned into, instead of a powwow, it was a drive-through event where they'd get their book bag and backpacks, things like that.
It's funny. Well, the last summer, it was on Facebook. What's going on in town? Traffic's backed up from here all the way through town, past Subway, past the light. What's going on? Well, Eastern Shawnee's giving out backpacks because they give out good backpacks, good school supplies, and they have early childhood backpacks, and then all the way you can be a high schooler and get a backpack. So not only did the traffic was backed up down Main Street, they're trying to get it contained, but they were going in and out of the parking lot, and it was still all the way backed up to Main Street. So people come to the children's powwow, usually they have to do the activities and get a punch card and then get their backpack so that they get some exposure to Eastern Shawnee culture and what goes on in the tribe, and not just come get a backpack and leave. Mm-hmm. And so that was kind of interesting.
The AOA turned of course they couldn't have their events for the elders, so they had bingo in the parking lot. So everybody was in their cars, and they would hand out bingo cards, and then they had a singer and a bingo caller up front. There's like a big awning over there.
Yeah, Linda was in charge of that hill. She was the AOA director. She just recently passed away. But she was on top of things, and there were rules. And if anybody got out of that car, we're done. We're leaving. No more bingo. You stay in your car, you honk your horn if you get a bingo, and we will come to you.
So we could hear them honking over here.
So honk, it was great. So, but she was really
they handed out sandwiches and, stuff like that.
Mm-hmm. Your bus that you pointed out to me, do you deliver books?
That's on, not yet. We are,
we're in the middle of that grant. So we just got the bus back from being wrapped for the decoration and stuff, which Laura and I did the graphic work on that, and then sent it up there, and our maintenance department did all the maintenance on it to bring it up to code and everything. So that was another in-house teamwork. We all work as a really great team, but so now we need to get it loaded with the books and get it on its route, and we're
there's some few things that need to be done, cleaning it, and we're wanting to put it in the parade for 4th of July.
Yeah, talking about putting it in the 4th of July.
But I'm only if you are for sure that it will not break down. I am not going to be in a Seneca parade and break down in front of all these people that I know. I'll never hear, I'm talking you go down Main Street, everybody almost. I'm not breaking down in this bus, especially since it's called Gin Gin. I will never hear the end of it.
And that was actually spurred on from the pandemic. That was where that idea came from, was because people couldn't come in here, for quite a while, that we could take that out to the community and one by one let them come up and see the books. And it's for children and for adults.
Yeah, we're going to have elder books on there too.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
But where they could, and then have the tub where when we go back, they bring me the books back, bring them here. They sit there for a day, then go through and clean them, sit another day. So we have a plan in action. Now we're just trying to get the bus out. I know that we have our learning center that will be able to take books to. We have the MODOCs that they have put in elder housing on State Line, just down the road. And they've already said they want us to bring the bus there. They'll have culture camp, so we can take it to the kids there. Then we have elder housing. We have tribal housing. Then the Wyandottes have housing. Peoria's so we have Native communities, housing communities that we can take it to. And then we have the early childhood for Seneca that's right on the border too, that we can take it up there. So, I mean, we have a plan. It's just finishing up just the last touches and still meeting our deadlines on that grant to get it out. But yes, that's...
So it sounds like there's a lot of intertribal cooperation and collaboration and working together because there's so many in this area. Is that...
It just depends on what
correct?
department you are.
Oh, does it?
I mean,
you don't have...
a lot of us, I don't want to try to... I love working intertribal. I love working with other tribes. I know that some of them feel the same way. There are tribal members that don't like doing that. So that kind of makes it sometimes a burden, or it's harder to do stuff with other tribes because they don't like that. But if you look, doing the research for this grant, one of the theses that was written back in the early 1900s, late 1800s, it talked about when the first census was done at the Quapaw Agency, how you had your Modocs, the Eastern Shawnees, the Miamis, Ottawa, all these tribes. The scientist or the professor that was writing about it said you wouldn't have thought that they were separate tribes. They were so tight knit and they acted like a family. You would have thought they were from the same tribe. And it's sad, today, that's not the case at all. I mean, this is the Quapaws. And this here, Eastern Shawnees, just leave the Eastern Shawnee. It wasn't like that then when they first started taking these census, that these tribal members from these different tribes, because we are in such a little spot in Oklahoma, and there are 8 of us, or 9? 9? I think 9. Anyways, we're all right here, and you have the bigger tribes, but they were so tight knit and so close that they thought they were just one tribe when they weren't. So anyway, I thought that was a neat tidbit of history.
The other real local tribes were able to utilize us as the print shop. They always have, they're good about sending us their work, but we were able to print immediately. Versus even in the beginning, it was fearful to get anything in the mail, remember? So, yeah, they were good about coming to us for any projects that they needed completed right away. And again, we would do the the door handoff and all of that. But
Okay, is there anything that we haven't covered that you would like to add in for the interview?
Oh, well, I talked about the small homes, tiny homes.
Yeah.
And I don't know if Chief touched on that. We have a couple over by our Native Connective building that's not with these that we purchased so that if a tribal member or a co-worker was exposed, they could go and needed somewhere to stay to isolate from their family, or we have a couple of those homes that were purchased through some of our COVID money that are set up so if we need them for emergency use like that. So I mean, there's been actions put in place so that we don't, because when they could get rid of the COVID, what did you call that whenever you were off work for COVID and you got the pay? What kind of pay did they call that? Do you remember? If you were out with COVID and you couldn't go to work and you still got paid.
I can't
think of what it was called.
It's not furlough, because furlough, you don't get paid.
And I keep thinking severance.
Right.
It's not severance.
No, but it was
pandemic pay.
I can't think of what it was called. Where you
Comfort?
No, I can't think of what it was called. Anyways, when they could get rid of it, they did, because the casino employees. Are you about out of time?
No, we're good.
Okay. The casino employees, when they opened back up, they were missing rent left, and then people were taking advantage of the system, just like they took advantage of unemployment, not going back to work. They were taking advantage. Oh, I was exposed to this person, and this person's grandma had it. Like they were not coming to work because they weren't directly exposed. So people were starting to take advantage of the system so they didn't have to go back to work. And when they got rid of that, I can't think of what the pay was called. They got rid of it. Like, if you get COVID, it's on you now. You're not getting any 2 weeks pay for being homesick with COVID.
The chart was really good, though. In the beginning, to set up, we had an actual flow chart that we would get updated weekly. They were very good about communicating with us, very good about supporting us. When we did have to go home, well, we stayed here because the print shop, but when the administration got to go home for the 2 weeks or whatever, they were good about paying everybody. I feel as an employee that they really took care of us, and they were able to test us immediately for the blood, antigen test, for all of those, or antibody tests. And the, like I said, the weekly updates with the flow chart. If you've been exposed, this is what you do. If you've been secondhand exposure, this is what you do. And Chief was really good about sending us information that she thought was pertinent, to the situation, vitamins to take, just things like that,
Yep.
Yeah.
That's going to drive me nuts. If I figure out what that pay was called, I'll just email it to you you can edit
plug
that.
it in.
And as divided as the country is, the world is right now, with the different points of view, and everybody's just has this wall up between even just the three of us. We have very different views on a lot of things, but the three of us have still stayed a very strong team. We can talk about things, and at the end of the day, we're still together and harmoniously, and I just think that says a lot for.
Because we don't have the same views on vaccines and COVID and Trump and this and but we get past that,
and we're all three very headstrong women, so
well, and if we if it starts,
it's taught us to work out our differences, so yeah,
So that's a positive benefit.
very
Yes.
positive. And I think, for empathy wise, it takes the focus off of you even more now. It's because it's not all about me. It's what are my actions? How are they going to affect you, or just somebody walking in the door, or who you're standing next to at the grocery store. It expands your view, I think, or your realization that what you're doing is affecting other people, even more so.
Yeah, I knew that I didn't believe in the whole mask thing. So, but I knew they did. So I don't wear it out in public, but they did. So when I came here, if I wanted to go back and talk to them, I had to wear my mask. They can lecture me and say, well, this is why you need to wear your mask, Jennifer, but I'm still not going to, but I would still respect their wishes and know what they thought was right, and I would wear the mask.
And we didn't shove it down her throat either.
No. No.
We just provided the information.
Right, and they are my elders, so it is their job to try to teach me. I'm just kidding.
Okay. All right. Well, I think we're probably at a good point to wrap up.
And we're going to donate this to you to take to the library for archival.
Well, thank you.
That's our healing stories that went out to all the tribal members.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yes.
Appreciate that very much.